Filthy animals.
Good to see you all. Hello, retail. Cheers, my friends. Welcome to the stream. I'm Marcel Kalinovic, Butcher Wall Street. Let's have a little song while I get my stuff together over here, get all this shit organized. We're going to talk reverse split, dilution. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Zach D says, hey Marcel, let's get this bread. That's what I'm fucking talking about, bro. Russell says, you're late. I'm always late.
Let's fucking go.
My man, Cash Money. Cash Money Millionaire. Hell yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate your support. Good looking out. I'll answer all your questions. If you guys got questions, throw them in the chat. I'll answer all of them, even the ones from the shills. It'll be fun. How's that sound, guys? Lord knows there's a lot of them. I was having a conversation actually with Wes Christian a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me that you wouldn't believe the amount of literal paid shills that are out there in the AMC community, GameStop community, retail investor community. You know, the meme stocks are getting hit hard by the paid shills. And we already knew it was true, and you can see it every fucking day. Just look at your Twitter, look at your social media every time. There's no avoiding them. Let me get this shit a little closer over here. There we go. David Parker asked, what the hell happened to AMC? My friend, the market is fucking collapsing. What did you expect to happen to AMC before it went up? I've been saying this for over a year and a half now. AMC's going down before she goes up. That hasn't stopped me from buying. I got huge six figures in this thing. I got no problems with it. I continue to average down, cost average down every single week. I deposited another $5,000 in one of my brokerage accounts today. As a matter of fact, load up on some more shares and some more 2024 contracts. Full disclosure, I did sell over 1,000 APE shares today from one of my margin accounts. The reason I did that is because I didn't want to hold more APE shares in that margin account so that they couldn't be borrowed against by naked shorts. I'm sorry, by shorts. They couldn't be borrowed by shorts. So I sold them on that broker so I could buy them on another broker. I got several, and I think everyone else should. That's not financial advice. That's just common fucking sense, right? If you were around in January of 2021, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Brandon, I do pretty well for myself, my friend. I wouldn't say I'm balling, but I do well for myself. I have multiple businesses. But I don't charge for my Discord. I don't charge for my Patreon. And, you know, I don't charge here for YouTube either. All the information that we share and provide is free because I'm going to make plenty of fucking money on my own in business. And I'm going to make a fuck ton of money in the stock market on AMC and GameStop. And that's why I wear my Mo Astronaut helmet every time we do a stream. This is because we're going to the dark side of the moon, brother. Yeah, long on AMC. I know those are rookie numbers, but that's my weekly injection right now, so... No, actually, T-Bone, I do have to disclose sometimes when I do things because I've disclosed my purchases. So I will disclose when I sell. So it actually, to prevent myself from legal trouble, on certain accounts, I will disclose when I buy and when I sell. As you guys have seen me purchase $100,000 worth of AMC and APE in one moment on this channel here before, I have the obligation to disclose when I sell some. So that being the case, you know, I'll always be honest with you guys. I'll always be upfront with you. You guys know I have thousands and thousands of call contracts, tens of thousands of shares on AMC and APE, and then other meme stocks as well. And I intend to keep it that way. Saying Ape says it's going to be a big year, boss. I know you're right, my friend. Oh, AMC Ape at Lee says I have some BBIG and Mullen. Yeah. BBIG was looking pretty good today. Tide was up like 170%. Did you guys see that shit? Tide, TYDE ticker. You guys got to check it out. Mullen was up pretty nicely too. Actually, full disclosure, I think I sold like 20 of my 20 of my contracts on Mullen for a profit today as well. Brad, you're too kind, my friend. Appreciate the contribution. Let's go blend today. I am holding BBIG since you asked. He was asking who else is holding BBIG. Let's see. Drop it in the chat if you have BBIG contracts or shares. If you're long on BBIG, put BBIG in the chat so I can see this. I want to see how many of you guys got BBIG or tied, TYDE. Put them in the chat. I want to see. We got Road Dog right away. Road Dog, my man. Always support. Appreciate you, brother. You are awesome. Incredible pillar of this community. Thank you, Road Dog. Beautiful PPL, Beautiful People says, boss, Gary Gensler owes you whistleblower money. Get the money printer out, Gary. That's pretty good. Queen Bee, Corey Baker, Jeremy, a lot of BBIG. What do you guys got? Be big, Tide. I like it. Moon Rocks. I don't know, I got a steamroller. I don't have Moon Rocks, but I got a steamroller. Cheers, motherfuckers. We're going to be filthy fucking rich. Damn, that's a lot of BBIG holders. Taking off 91. Added AMC call options. No BBIG for me. Then we got Darktown, Ryan, Dreadful saying BBIG, Tide. Roger Rabbit, Veronica. Phoenix Ascending. That is dope. Glad to hear it. Mark O'Sullivan, Mullen and BBIG, Alex, AMC, Ape, BBIG, MMAT. I love MMAT. I know it sounds selfish, but I hope these meme stocks keep going down because I love to buy some more for even cheaper. I know a lot of you people are like, come on, I've had enough of going down. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have, but that's not really the way that it works. In my opinion, the market's going to keep going down and taking a lot of meme stocks with it until margin calls occur. And like you guys saw back in 2008 with Volkswagen and with other stocks like dry ships and such, there is a lot of volatility to be had in heavily shorted stocks. A lot. Check this out from the Unusual Whales report. Ken Griffin gave millions to politicians, but there hasn't been a full list of politicians he paid until now. And of course, my beautiful state of Illinois leads the way in the number one receiver of contributions from Kenneth Cordell Bedpost Griffin, in which he donated, $20,000s of dollars. I don't even know how much that's supposed to be exactly. $200,000 here to the Illinois Republican Party for federal contributions. The Friends of the GOP, Winning Women 2022, Majority Committee PAC, Team Marshall 2, Michael Waltz for Congress, Tony Gonzalez, Let's Get to Work PAC, Jamie for Congress, Garbarino, Young Kim, Victoria Spartz. A lot. Scalise Leadership. Man, Kenneth Griffin sure has a lot of money to throw around. Maybe it's because they sold $67 billion worth of securities and have not purchased a single fucking share to pay that shit off yet. Maybe that's where some of this money came from. Check this out. He also released Unusual Whales. Released the full trading report on politicians in 2022. Despite 2022 being the worst market since 2008, both Democrats and Republicans beat the market. Many politicians individually beat the market, and many made unusual trades resulting in high gains. Patrick Fallon made 51.6% more than the S&P in 2022. Debbie Schultz, of course, made 50.8% more than the SPY. And we already know these people are crooks, right? And as the old adage goes, red or blue don't give a fuck about you. They're not here to protect you or I. They're not here because they care about us. They're in it for themselves. They have their own interests in mind, and their constituents at this point consist of big business and big money. Institutions. As you guys may or may not know, institutions own 80% of all money in the stock market. Retail only has 20% of the money in the stock market. And that's pretty clear here when you've got, 20 at least of these congressmen and women that are beating the market, the S&P 500 this year. They have Nancy Pelosi, as you guys knew, this year it seemed like she was doing great. And then people got wind of her malfeasance and threw, threw some money down the drain in order to get the feds off her tail, most likely, and is down 19.8%, just shy of the SPY's negative 18%. But up until they were making bank on the semiconductor via their sale of NVIDIA, on the semiconductor chip bill that was passed, they were doing really, really well. And I think from there they decided to tank their own account, tank their own gains for the year, seeing as how she's only makes, 6-7 figures a year, yet somehow managed to have a $100 million net worth, Nancy and Paul Pelosi. Check this out. This shit gets crazy. On average, Democrats were down 1.76% in 2022, whereas Republican members were up 0.4%. Now, that's the average. That's not based off the top performers, right? And the S&P 500 itself was down over 18%. And in 2021, of course, they beat the market by a hefty, hefty amount. And SPY-matched trades approach shows similar results. This allows us to compare a politician's individual trades with the SPY over the same period. Take a look at the Senate. Average congressional stock returns in 2022. They beat it by 5.83% for Republicans and 16.28% for Democrats. Gee, wonder why they like to have the majority. The House, 4.5%, 3.19% for the Republicans and the Democrats. It's a giant fucking game for these guys. They're only out to enrich themselves. They could not care less about the little guy like us. Average congressional stock returns here as well. Make sure you guys check out Unusual Whales if you aren't already. But in 2022, the Pelosi's were down nearly 20% because many of their deep in the money option plays expired at a loss. Meanwhile, the top trader, Pat Fallon, was up 51% on his 2022 trades. Now, if your options are deep in the money, why would they, well, of course, they expired at a loss, but why would you let them expire at all? Why not sell them for a profit unless you're trying to purposely make your account look like it's worth less than it truly is, or make yourself look like your track record isn't perfect? From the looks of it, lost quite a bit of money on Google, Tesla, Roblox, CRM, Netflix, and Meta, Facebook. That was kind of hard for you guys to see, so I'll just kind of skip that one. But you can see that the top gainers here, the top winners, did extremely well for themselves. So whatever the hell Marie Newman was doing, down 83% this year. I don't think she had a whole lot of money invested in there because a percentage is not a dollar figure, right? She could have had $100 in there and lost $83 and said, oh, I did terrible this year. And it would only show up as a percentage. Paula Jacobs says tax break, T-bone, wash sale. Yeah, those things are very likely, allegedly. Here's 2021, where Unusual Whales did the same report on members of Congress that beat SPY in 2021. As you can see, Austin Scott, Brian Mast, French Hill, John Curtis, Dan Crenshaw, Pelosi, Rouser, McKinley, Welch. A lot of them did extremely well, greatly beating the SPY. Along with the S&P, you guys may or may not be aware that cryptocurrencies are in absolutely terrible shape. And I think a lot of people at this point have heard Janet Yellen testify in front of Congress during the CARES Act in 2021, September of 2021. And she specifically told us that the largest threats to our financial system are stablecoins and over-leveraged hedge funds. Here she is. Fed Chair Powell and Treasury Secretary Yellen testified before Congress on September 28th of 2021.
We're looking at and examining, there are issues relating to hedge funds and the possibility of
What?
funds and examining. There are issues relating to hedge funds and the possibility of leverage there that can trigger financial runs. That's another topic. And more broadly, climate change over time is I believe could be a significant risk to the financial sector.
She's talking about financial climate. She's not talking about the weather. She's talking about the financial climate.
A trigger, possibility, consequence that can by redemption, bond funds that guarantee daily redemption, saw massive withdrawals by individuals who wanted to flee to cash, and that can trigger fire sales of assets with systemic consequences. The Financial Stability Oversight Council that I head has taken that up as a topic that we're looking at and examining. There are issues relating to hedge funds and the possibility of leverage there that can trigger financial runs.
Oh.
That's another topic. And
Oh, I had no idea. You heard it right there for yourself from Old Yeller. Stablecoins, cryptocurrencies, and exchanges are some of the biggest threats right now. The cryptocurrency exchanges are having a severe issues right now with the threat of stablecoins like Luna Terra, for example, and the cryptocurrency exchanges related to FTX and Three Arrow Capital, Alameda Research, AAX, and dozens of others are having these issues. And now you've got Zhu Su here from, I believe he's from Genesis, formerly from Genesis, giving us a quick rundown of the DCG situation. DCG is the company that owns Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And they've got a lot of over-leveraged positions, let's put it that way. And it doesn't seem like Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is going to fare very well during this. They said DCG conspired with FTX to attack Luna and staked ETH and made a fair bit of money doing so. They took substantial losses in the summer of 2022 from their bankruptcy, as well as Babel and other firms involved in Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. They could have calmly restructured then, but instead they fabricated a left pocket, right pocket, callable promissory note that magically filled the hole. This is like a kid losing at poker and saying, "I'm fine, my dad will pay you, let me keep playing." But if your dad is actually yourself, then they, like FTX, proceeded to misdirect for months, using various methods to attack us, talking about DCG, and also not have anyone ask the hard questions, which is, how did Genesis fill the hole? They, like FTX, Genesis, spent 6 months taking more deposits while insolvent and hoping the market goes up. DCG's value is zero. Criminal fraud, FTX creditors also have a case for fraudulent conveyance on Alameda returns of capital to Genesis. Most OGs, original gangsters, are well aware of how close Barry and SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, were since beginning. Sam Bankman-Fried is on the board of Genesis, and they gave him his first FTT-backed loan, FTT being the FTX coin. Genesis creditors will push it into bankruptcy and take the remaining DCG assets in the coming days either way. They're likely demanding Barry pays back his cash outs the easy way instead of waiting for a DOJ criminal case with restitution punishments. I can't believe that this has such few, only 175,000, 500,000 views, 1.1 million views. This should have been shared so much more than it actually was. And I'm kind of disappointed in the fact that more people didn't share this incredibly accurate summary of DCG. But that's not to say that Genesis, is completely free of guilt here, that this is an industry-wide issue that we're seeing on financial markets. Check out what we got. Mega cap destruction. I keep getting this question, guys. Why is AMC down? Why is Ape down? Well, they're getting the shit shorted out of them, just like many other companies. Look at Tesla, for example. And we're looking at mega. I know some people are going to say, "Oh, but Tesla missed delivery amounts of, on their last delivery date." Yeah, they didn't miss it by much. Let's put it that way. And AMC's revenue is greatly increasing, as is their market share. So the whole that it's not related to actual fundamentals as to what the reasoning for those stocks coming down. It's the fact that the entire stock market is extremely, extremely overvalued. These 6 stocks combined lost $4.7 trillion in market cap this year. This was as of December 28th, close on 2022. So you're looking at almost $5 trillion wiped out from some of the, top stocks on the market, Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Tesla, and Meta platforms, for a negative 51, negative 29, negative 41, even negative 68% change in 2022. Now you've got Zelensky as person of the year, and last year you had Elon Musk. What a big change. It's so easy for elites to turn on each other when they're doing things that don't benefit the others, such as buying Twitter and putting out the Twitter files and absolutely shining the light on the issues that are and the crimes that are being perpetrated by the CDC, the federal government, and market makers, hedge funds, pharmaceutical companies, and so on. And especially, the CIA and the FBI and such, who have been manipulating people on Twitter and social media. Elon Musk is putting all that out. And as soon as the talks to buy Twitter started, Tesla started getting heavily shorted as well and being sold off. Alex says Tesla car dropped 250 feet off a cliff and all occupants survived. Stock down 5%. Yeah, that sounds about right. So you guys can see the market is getting torn to pieces. Some of these stocks are down greatly, greatly, greatly. And why am I not worried about AMC and GameStop and Ape, for example? Well, AMC, for example, bought a ton of new theaters, and they closed down quite a few underperforming theaters as well, greatly increasing their revenues and profits. Even in a year when total number of movies being shown and being released by movie companies and production companies is much less than it was pre-COVID 2019. 2022 exceeded pre-COVID revenues for AMC. Concession profits per visitor are at all-time highs. AMC is coming out with their own popcorn for sale on retail shelves. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure as hell going to go buy some. I know a lot of people will. I'd rather buy AMC popcorn than Orville Redenbacher. I'll tell you that. AMC credit cards are coming out. I signed up for the beta, I signed up for the release of the credit cards so that I can get them as soon as they're available. And I'll have mine. And via their branding deal with Visa, they should get a nice percentage, a nice chunk of change from there that as well. And there's many, many other reasons. But aside from the fact that the entire market's getting melted down, I'm not too concerned about AMC going to zero, especially if they implement a conversion of Ape back to AMC. In addition, that would close out a lot of shorts on Ape, as we've heard from Fidelity and E-Trade and several other brokers that I've shown on this channel that have replied to our text messages or customer service support chats and said that a conversion from one stock like Ape to AMC would cause the shorts and the naked shorts in those positions to have to close out. So shorts haven't closed their positions, but continue to short AMC, and there's 100 more reasons. The short exempts on AMC and Ape are astronomically high every single day. The short volume percentage on AMC and Ape are astronomically high every single day. The rehypothecations, the shorts marked as long, and many, many other things that are happening right now are clear as day if you know where to look. The spoofing is all too clear when you have gigantic orders being placed for sale, and then they're canceled, as evidenced by the fact that they never hit the ticker tape. The level 2 data is there. I'm reading the chat right now. So yeah, my answer is it's It's not my floor, but it's 500K per share, Kenny. If you don't want the deal, then hang up. That's what I thought. He's going to hang out and wait for that one. And you know what? I am really sick of the garbage information that's being spread about Adam Aaron and about AMC. And if you really understand business, or even if you slightly understand business, I think you would understand, you would realize that Adam Aaron is doing a fantastic job as the CEO of AMC Theaters. He is not responsible for naked shorts. He's not responsible for synthetic shares. He cannot stop them from occurring, but they can do certain maneuvers to prevent themselves from going bankrupt, such as conversion and dilution and reverse split, that would strengthen their balance sheet and basically destroy literally destroy the short thesis. And as a byproduct, likely destroy a lot of the shorts, a lot of the short positions. Because we know for a fact that when AMC issued APE, that doubled the shorts on AMC, because every short on AMC is now also a short position on APE. Where they previously had one short, they now have two. Where they previously had $1 billion, they now have $2 billion. Where they previously had $10 billion, they now have $20 billion in short positions on AMC, for example. Now, a lot of people read this and they go, oh my God, the domestic box office is down. Yeah, industry-wide. So I'll read this to you because I understand that some people don't know what the hell it means. If you have difficulty with comprehension or if it's just too hard to understand, the fact is that he's talking about industry-wide numbers. That means that all theaters combined in the movie business had lower revenue numbers. However, AMC's numbers and their market share and their revenue growth continues to accelerate, even though 2022 had less overall industry-wide box office sales. This is extremely bullish. There are other theaters that have gone bankrupt, and AMC is stepping in to buy them up and is stepping in to take their place, their market share of only their best theaters. They're not buying their debt, they're not buying their trash, they're just buying certain key locations. And the cash burn that AMC had in Q2 and Q3 of 2022 was greatly due to the fact that they bought over 100 movie theaters last year. Over 100. And they closed down, I think, 39 underperforming movie theaters. 39. And they bought over 100. Which is fantastic. They're making so much more money off these new movie theaters compared to the old ones. And I've got my fucking moon ticket. Mark Rossi says they've 15 million per film is their highest since 2010. That's fucking bullish, dude. I agree with you on that. Oh yeah, John Wick 4 is coming out. I don't know if you guys saw Avatar 2. I rented a private theater and I took my family and friends to go see it. Had a great time. Kids had a great time. And it was nice having a private theater. That was really cool because I have two little ones and they were just running around the joint going nuts. So I can't take two little kids, two young toddlers to the theater with me unless I can make it worthwhile. You know what I mean? So I was proud to be one of those show times with my friends. And Adam continues to say that some of you misguidedly protest against dilution. When industry demand is off a whopping 35%, companies that do not raise fresh capital run out of cash and go broke. Look at Cineworld and Regal. Cineworld Regal is in bankruptcy court right fucking now. But not us. We know what we are doing, said Adam Aaron. Looking out for your interests. And the fact of the matter is, the DD is in, the hedge funds are fucked, and it's time. Again. It is time. It is Groundhog Day once again, my friends. As a matter of fact, this movie, Groundhog Day, was filmed in the town in which I live, Woodstock, Illinois. So I know exactly where this was here. This is over by the gazebo there in downtown Woodstock Square. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. They've got a whole setup there next to the movie theater in the square with like murals and statues and all sorts of shit regarding Groundhog Day. It's pretty cool. But you know what? Let's discuss it. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, how do you How do you feel about dilution? Are you worried about having less shares? No, I'm not. I'm not worried about it at all. If I have 10 times less shares, it just means that the share price will go up 10x. It also means that if you take AMC and APE's combined combined total number of shares, the whole float, that's around 1.4 billion shares. If you take that and reduce it 10 times, that's only around 140 million shares. That hugely reduces the total overall float, meaning there will be significantly less shares to borrow. 10 times less shares to borrow, as a matter of fact. 10 times fewer shares to borrow will be available after the reverse split and the dilution. Right? So we got 3 proposals coming up by AMC. Conversion, reverse split, and dilution. Conversion is the conversion of APE to AMC. I'm voting yes, because I've got a lot of APE, and if I buy more, they'll be converted 1-to-1 to AMC. That'll raise the price most likely. I mean, obviously, it'll raise the price if they get converted, but it could raise the price more than just the conversion amount because more people might buy into it. It's very likely. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. These are just my speculations. Also, reverse split. The reverse split greatly reduces the overall float. Aside from bringing down the float 10 times and making there 10 times fewer shares to borrow and increasing the price of my share 10 times, it doesn't matter if I have 10 singles or a $10 bill. They're still $10 at the end of the day. And the same thing goes with shares. Because of the reduced float, and there will be much greater volatility on the stock. And it's unquantifiable exactly how much more the stock can actually go up. It's unquantifiable. If the previous potential, let's say previously before the split, the stock was only going to go to 1,000 a share. I'm just saying that theoretically. If theoretically the stock had like a max limit that we have not yet seen, but that we were going to see of say $1,000 a share, because there are 10 times fewer shares, there may be much more than just 10 times a greater amount of stock ceiling. It might go way higher than 10,000 a share after the reverse split. It might go 20,000 a share, 30,000 a share, 50,000. I don't fucking know, right? Nobody knows because we can't see the future. And a lot of people go, oh, well, I would have made so much more money with my shares. I have 100 shares. I would make so much more at 1,000 a share. Now I got to wait till 10,000 a share to get that same price if the reverse split occurs. Right. But previously, what if without a reverse split, the price is only going to go up to 500, right? This is a conceptual exercise. What if, like, say, $500 a share would be the top, and you're trying to wait for $1,000 a share, and it never gets there, and then it comes back down? Then what would you do? You'd be shit out of luck. What if, again, conceptual exercise, theoretically speaking, because there are 10 times fewer shares, and 90% of retail investors own the float of 516 million AMC shares right now, including ETFs, 85% excluding ETFs, because of that number becoming 1.4 billion when the APE to AMC conversion occurs, and then being divided by 10 to 140 million after the AMC reverse split. What if when the dilution occurs from Adam Aaron, like it did the last 2 times, runs the stock price up? Because in January of 2021, it ran the stock price up. And then again in May and June of 2021, when the stock price ran up to $77, all-time high, when AMC was selling shares. And when AMC stopped selling shares, that's when the price started to come down. But while they were selling shares, the price kept going up and up and up. What if this time that triggers the mother of all short squeezes? And what previously would have been a $500 a share or $1,000 a share maximum price might end up being $10 or $20 or $30,000 a share. Nobody really knows. These are all conceptual exercises because a lot of people don't realize that because you have in your mind that I was going to sell my shares at $2,000 a share doesn't mean it would ever get to that fucking price. Do I think it could have gotten to that price? Yeah, probably. Does that make me correct? No. No, because none of us truly know because we don't have a crystal ball. We can't see the future, right? So you've got to think conceptually. You got to conceptualize these theories and these thoughts for yourself. The Green Weenie says, Wolfie for Speaker of the House. I love it. Wolfie over here has a cold, And my man is still in the chat over here. Thank you very much, Wolfie. He says, convert APE, reverse split 10 to 1, and then issue another float of AMC or APE to do to them what they do to AMC. If the stock price goes from $5 a share to $50 a share, AMC would only have to sell a very small amount. I think, 1 million shares would give them $5 billion. No, that would be 50 million. Excuse me one second here. Yep. They could get much more for the share price, for the company to pay off their debt via the dilution. And it could potentially, via the dilution, because so many short hedge funds and market makers and such, family offices, I should say, will need to buy these shares, it could potentially continue to cause the price to go up. That would cause more options contracts, call contracts, to go in the money. And those going in the money would cause more fear of missing out buying by retail. And that FOMO buying by retail would cause more gamma squeezing on the call contracts, and the implied volatility will shoot up. And then the broker dealers would have more contracts in the money, and they would have to hedge for those and buy more shares at any price. At any price. And a lot of people are forgetting that Adam Aron owns or will vest in 3 million more shares of AMC and 3 million more shares of APE, AMC Preferred Equity Units. That is an enormous incentive to do what is best for AMC shareholders, says Adam Aron. And I completely fucking agree. Completely agree. So he'll have 6 million shares after the conversion if the proposal passes, which I hope to fucking God it will. And then that would be divided by 10 after the reverse split, if the reverse split passes, which I hope to God it does. And then with dilution, AMC could sell off some of their shares and pay off some of their debt. And that would absolutely destroy the short thesis. Hands down, period. He said, I work in the best interests of AMC shareholders because I am one, and a big one. He's got millions of fucking shares. With AMC paying off their debt, more institutions would want to buy their actual shares. More institutions would buy their shares, but that doesn't mean that I would sell mine unless the price was at a target that I liked. Therefore, more of the float would be sold, more synthetics would be created, and more shorts would have to be taken out to prevent the price from skyrocketing, further enabling me to make more money in the future. This isn't a fucking get-rich-quick scheme for me. This is a long-term hold and investment for me in which I continue to take out lots of leverage. And I will continue to do so until it squeezes. It doesn't matter if it takes a few weeks, months, years even. Like, for example, my man Cash Money here, I think he was buying Bitcoin in like 2010, 2011 for, $20 a Bitcoin. How long did you hold for, Chase, if you're there, bro? Cash, how long did you hold there?
For like 10 years.
And what price did you sell at? Or approximately what price did you sell at? Of course, you have to give me the exact number.
Throughout months. The last one I sold with 60 grand Bitcoin.
60 grand a Bitcoin. So you held for a fucking decade to go from $20 a Bitcoin to $60,000 a Bitcoin.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're going to be so fucking rich. I don't know if AMC will go to $60,000 a share. It doesn't have to go there. It doesn't have to go anywhere near $60,000 a share for people to get filthy fucking rich. That I know for a fact. Lastly, Adam Aron said, I've been AMC's CEO for 7 years. About 2/3 of my total pay is in stock. 2/3. Do you think this man wants the stock price to go down?
Hell no.
Fuck no. 2/3 of all your money went in shares, maybe you'd cash some out every now and then, wouldn't you? But out of all the years that Adam Aron could have sold shares, he only sold shares during a short 65-day time span from November 21st to January 22nd. His stock sales ended a year ago. He hasn't sold a share in over a year. And he says,
He's waiting for the moment.
that's a smart fucking guy. He's a smart fucking guy. He's getting 6 million more fucking shares of AMC and APE here, 3 million each, respectively. And I know he's looking forward to a conversion of APE back in AMC, as well as a reverse split and dilution, because all of those things lead to a higher share price. Now, oh gee, there's so many things I can mention all at once. Let's see, 1796 Patriots says, boss, will they do the conversion and then wait 4 to 6 weeks to do the reverse split? No. There's no reason why they would have to wait anytime. They could do it immediately. They could do it the day after the conversion is over if they wanted to. Won't 90% of synthetics vanish? No, synthetics don't vanish. They don't just, they don't vanish. That's not the way shares work.
They linger like a curse.
Yeah, it's not like things are just going to fucking up and walk away. You know, the total amount, the amount of money in these short positions doesn't just disappear. It's still there. It's still fucking there until they close their positions. That's why Citadel Securities has $67 billion worth of securities sold, not yet purchased. That's why. And Adam Aron is the original gangster silverback. And don't fucking forget it, you cucks. He is the man. And you know what? Why do I think that? Well, I think that because I am the CEO and founder of multiple companies, and we do extremely well for ourselves. And knowing what it takes to run a business, I feel that Adam Aron is an absolutely phenomenal CEO. Go ask the YouTubers out there that are trying to put him down or saying that he's doing a terrible job. Ask them how many multi-million-dollar businesses they've run, because I bet you the answer is fucking zero. That's not the case for me. Not to mention the biggest inflation in 2023 in 40 years so far. And in 2023, companies will grant large percentage salary raises. But Adam Aron says, I do not want more when our shareholders are hurting. So I recommended to the AMC board to red circle and freeze both my target cash and target stock pay for 2023. No increase. He doesn't want a fucking raise. He says, I'm making enough money. I'm going to be filthy fucking rich during this MOAS anyway, most likely. What the hell do I need more money and more shares for? And I think a lot of shareholders are probably in the same boat. Right?
How selfless.
Yeah, exactly. He could easily take his fucking raise and say, if he didn't care about the shareholders, if he wasn't listening to the shareholders, but he's not, because he's paying attention to what we're saying, and he has been. A lot of people seem to forget that we as retail were begging for APE dividend to come out. And what is it you do? A lot of people don't understand. Here's the key. I'm going to tell you something very important that most people still don't get. APE was never going to cause a short squeeze just by the issuance of APE, but by the conversion of APE back to AMC via a merger or acquisition or a conversion, a manual conversion through a shareholder vote. When APE is brought back into AMC via this conversion, that will cause those short positions on APE to force themselves, at least the naked shorts for the minimum, to have to close their positions. Minimum. And I'm not just making that up. You guys saw various broker-dealers say that, right? You guys saw that. I posted it on my page multiple times, and I will even pull it up for you guys if you guys want to take a look at it.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Of course you do. Because you don't conveniently forget things, right?
Well, no one's perfect.
Let's see here.
There's so many more reasons to vote yes than no. Way more.
We could literally talk about this for like 2 hours, and we could just keep talking about one reason after the other why it's good to vote yes. The only reason I could think that people have been saying that it's bad to vote yes for reverse split would be because they would have less shares. But at the same time, I could counter that with that the maximum price could potentially be much less than 10x lower without a reverse split. So it's kind of a wash in my opinion.
A lot of people fear what they don't know, and that's really the problem.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Why would FTX and Bittrex issue 1.2 billion phantom shares via their tokenized stocks on January 27th, 2021, unless there was actual collusion occurring there between broker dealers like Robinhood and Webull and market makers and short hedge funds to restrict the price? The only reason that they would do that on January 27th, 2021, they would issue that security is because they needed more shares to borrow, to short against, because the price was completely out of control. And even still, it was insufficient. They pulled the buy button from retail investors and then issued more than double 200% of the float on top of what already existed in tokenized securities, just to get the price of AMC and GameStop to come back down because it got out of control. Failures to deliver will still be there. There is a way in which failing to deliver is less expensive for them often than actually delivering the shares. So this is a big problem with the stock market. That doesn't mean that all the failures to deliver can just disappear. That doesn't mean that their short positions just disappear, or their synthetics disappear, or their naked shorts. None of those. They still have to be, the securities sold still have to be repurchased at one point or another. It may take a while. I'm not going to say a number, right? It may take a while, but that doesn't mean that they don't have to be repurchased. The only way they don't have to be repurchased is if AMC goes bankrupt, which in my opinion is not going to fucking happen, in the way that CBO and Regal did.
Never.
Yeah, exactly. It's not to mention they now also own 25% of a fucking gold and silver mine called Highcroft Mining Corporation, HYMC. Don't forget it. Not to mention HYMC recently, we interviewed CEO Diane Garrett here on this channel, and she flat out told us that the amount of gold and silver and the quality of gold and silver greatly exceeded their expectations when they last finished their exploratory digging, and they're now beginning to get as much gold and silver out of the ground as possible. She also dropped, for the first time ever here, broke the news that Highcroft Mining Corporation was going to be issuing their own store, their online store, so you could buy NFTs and physical gold and silver directly from them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's fucking sick. I'm definitely gonna buy some.
Yeah, wait.
I'm gonna buy some without a doubt. Oh yeah, look, I almost forgot that I put this up there. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you donated money to Ukraine via their cryptocurrency donations, you actually donated to Democrats in a rigged election funded by illegal campaign contributions laundered through FTX, which is increasingly emerging as the crypto hub run by people with globalist ties. The World Economic Forum recently scrubbed FTX off their website because they were a partner of FTX and the World Economic
Oh
Forum.
man, I'm shocked.
Yeah, no kidding. Now look at this. Oh, Antara. You guys want to talk Antara? We can talk Antara. Here comes the good part, right? So AMC succeeded in raising another $110 million of equity capital. That's $272 million of new cash in 90 days. And people are talking shit at the fact that the average price that they sold to Antara there is 66 cents per share. But it was actually genius. You want to know why? Because AMC now has a partner in Antara. And Antara has 167 million shares, which they are going to be voting yes to all three proposals. So their agreement between CEO Adam Aron and AMC with Antara to sell them 106 plus 60 million more ape. So that's 166.6 million ape units out of the 1.4 billion that exist of ape and AMC combined will be a vote for yes on all three proposals. As you can see here, it says, as part of the agreement, Antara has agreed to hold their ape units for up to 90 days and vote them at the special meeting in favor of the proposals. In addition, AMC will limit the amount of additional equity capital it can raise prior to the special meeting. So right there,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, right? This is so good for retail in my opinion. So good.
Someone knows what time it is.
Retail and YouTubers and the shills back in 2021 really fucked up AMC by not allowing AMC to sell shares to strengthen their balance sheet back in 2021. We could have already had the mother of all short squeezes, in my opinion, but too many people do not understand the market mechanics, and therefore were scared by guys like Trace Trades and Matt Kors out there saying that dilution is bad. Ooh, the boogeyman. AMC's going to sell shares and pay off their debt. Oh my God, we can't have that. That's so bad. I'll have 10 times less shares. Sorry, guys, but you're fucking wrong. You're fucking wrong, plain and simple. I've been explaining this for over a half hour now, and I could not, in my opinion, could not be any more clear in this fact. Nice. Brad Milne says Highcroft Mining Corporation's moving up 12% in the last 5 days. Hell yeah. Because gold and silver always do really well during market crash situations. Coco John says, what about if the government will shut down the business? AMC will be in danger. I have absolutely no fear about the government shutting down the United States again. What do you think will happen? I think people will burn the fucking place, will burn America to the ground if the CDC and the Biden administration try to shut down this country again. How many people now are dying or injured from the vaccine? Now, what happened on live TV in the NFL just a couple days ago, sadly? You know, this isn't just one person. This isn't just two athletes. This is over 750 athletes have dropped dead or have had some sort of a heart issue in the last 24 months alone. Over 750 athletes in their prime, the prime of their lives.
Oh, it must be climate change.
Yeah. Yeah, it must be climate change or that ridiculously routine hit that was taken by a professional NFL player just for the first time ever just happened to cause this issue. I don't think so. That was an arrhythmia caused through a vaccine, and more so the exertion of energy, less than the actual just taking a small tap to the chest. God help that guy. I hope he pulls through. I have no idea what's going on with him. Captain Awesome says, here's one better. Look at all the tent cities of homeless people 2 blocks from Congress. Yeah, no fucking kidding, man. Yeah, the Rona is gone, dude. The Rona is shut down. And the China is still playing, they're still playing coronavirus. And we moved on to financial collapse. But right now, China and Ukraine war. China's still playing coronavirus out there. And you may or may not know this, but there are ridiculous amounts of riots and people burning down the city and absolutely destroying the country because of the lockdowns that were going on in China. You know, now there's a ridiculous number of basically prisons that were created by the government in which to house these people. And Americans have a lot of guns. Chinese people don't. Chinese people don't have guns. Lisa Clark bought 55 contracts, $12 strike for Tilray, January 2024. I'm golden if Tilray does what I think. That's badass, Lisa. Did you guys hear about the, well, not to change the subject here, but Tilray, Sundial, both weed stocks, right? Cannabis stocks. Sundial is having a merger with another company. That's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks here. Really, really soon, actually. You guys should look into it. I don't have that one handy right now, or I would pull that up. But if AMC can raise $272 million in new cash in 90 days just from issuing a couple hundred shares of APE, I'm sorry, a couple hundred million shares of APE at 66 cents for 166 million that they sold to Antara, and then a few more that they sold previously, it's going to be really easy, in my opinion, for them to raise a few billion to pay off their debt. Really, really easy. And just like happened back in January and June of 2021, that would also cause significant price action, in my opinion, to the positive side for AMC. Yeah, don't forget, AMC is not just a movie theater company. They've got all sorts of things going on. They literally own 25% of Hycroft Mining Corporation, and Hycroft's third round of 2022 exploration results yielded more gold and more silver and of higher quality than expected. So far, all 20 of the newly drilled bores contained gold and silver, and 14 of those 20 showed higher grades than previously known at Hycroft's site. That's fucking phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. And you know what? These issues that are happening are not just exclusive to AMC. They're happening to, you know, other companies like NWBO. You guys heard me previously put a couple tweets out, and we've talked about it previously on the channel. You know, they're suing market makers for manipulation and for spoofing the prices and all sorts of other things. Let me pull that up for you. Oh yeah, for those of you that don't know, since I haven't mentioned this on Twitter real quick, Seeking Alpha keeps trying to buy me. I cannot be bought. All right, I'm here for retail and not for mainstream media. Seeking Alpha sent me multiple emails several weeks apart saying, "Hey Marcel, I hope you had a great weekend. My name is Sarah Jaffe, and I am a partnership specialist at Seeking Alpha. I recently came across your YouTube channel, The Butcher of Wall Street. The content you share is fantastic. We believe the community you built online will also appreciate Seeking Alpha's professional caliber investing tools. On this account, we would like to see if you'd be interested in joining Seeking Alpha's partnership program. If so, please let me know." I didn't respond, and then about 2 weeks later, they sent me another email that said, "Hello. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I wanted to kindly follow up with you regarding, Seeking Alpha's affiliate program. Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, go fuck yourself, Seeking Alpha, and any of the other institutions of that kind that want to try to reach out. I don't care if they wanted to pay me $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 a month. I don't need your fucking money. I'm not here for your money. I'm here to make my own money. Period." Yeah, no shit. Lit Exchange posted December 1st, 2022. Breaking. A biotechnology company, stock ticker NWBO, accused Citadel Securities, Susquehanna International, and other Wall Street firms of driving down its stock price through a series of illicit trades. They are now being sued by Mr. Wes Christian, and many others are seemingly looking to pile in. Northwest Biotherapeutics accused market makers of illicit spoofing orders against their company. And that being said, I'd like to share an interview with you all here with Mr. Mark Faulk and some other people so that you would know here, like Mr. Wolfie AMC, as well as some people related to Mr. Darren Saunders, from the Wall Street Conspiracy movie. Now, if you guys have watched the documentary, if any of you guys have watched the documentary, The Wall Street Conspiracy, you're familiar with Darren Saunders. If you haven't, I highly suggest that you watch it. It came out in 2012, a couple years after, the 2008 global financial collapse. And it's regarding, the naked shorts and the synthetic shares and the manipulation of markets that was occurring then. And it's still fucking happening now. As a matter of fact, Darren Saunders sadly passed away from cancer. And the cancer company, very similar to Northwest Biotherapeutics, the cancer research company, Virogen, I think they were called, that had the cure for his cancer, potential cure, was shorted into the ground. That's incredibly sad, and these people tried to save him, but it's hard to talk about, right? But you watch that movie, The Wall Street Conspiracy. What's happening in these markets is not just exclusive to Blockbuster or Radio Shack or Toys R Us. This is happening to movie theaters and to gaming companies and to healthcare companies. The manipulation of global markets right now is an absolute cancer to financial system and to the people themselves, both literally and figuratively. Check this out. Yeah, 1 second. Let me get this. All right, let's go. Hi, I'm Marcel Kalinovic, the Butcher of Wall Street, and I'm here today with Mark Faulk, Federico, Valentina, and Darren, as you guys might know as Wolfie AMC. We're here to discuss the situation going on with different market mechanics, naked shorts, and the Wall Street Conspiracy, the movie that came out back after the 2008 global financial crisis. Quick introduction here, Mark Faulk. Really appreciate you for being here with us today and for coming out. I hear you're quite a bit of an activist. Is that the case? I've seen quite a bit of your stuff there, different protests and such.
Yeah, I
Pretty
come by
impressive.
it honestly. My dad organized with Clara Looper back in the mid 60s, and she did the first sit-ins in America in Oklahoma City. So he organized with her and did a lot of civil rights stuff. So I grew up thinking, and he was also a playwright and did kind of civil rights oriented plays, went off Broadway a couple of times. So I grew up thinking that every family was like that and that we were all going to go out and change the world, especially since I grew up in the late 60s and early 70s. And turned out that wasn't true. After a while, I felt like I was the only one in the trenches. But then fast forward and of course, Occupy Wall Street and even the George Floyd protests. I got arrested on the first day of the Oklahoma City George Floyd protests for telling a police officer that he said, "You need to get out of the street." I said, "We need you to stop shooting people." And next thing I knew, I was in handcuffs. So one of the mildest things I've ever said, probably. But honestly, for me, I started, and I'll go really quickly with this because it's a long time period. I started a website in 2004 called The Faulking Truth. And it no longer exists, but I now have a website called redstaterevolt.com, and I'm getting ready to pull some of those old articles and repost them because we thought I really meant for it to be a broad topic website, of kind of early years of blogs. I didn't know what a blog was until I was 2 years into it. And one of the things I wrote, I was writing about the war in Vietnam. This was March of 2004, on the 1 year anniversary of us invading Iraq. So I meant it to be social commentary across the board. And I wrote one article called Financial Terrorism in America. And it was about something I had learned a few years earlier. I had done a little investing around 2000, and made a bunch of money in a short period of time, and then lost it even quicker, like I was in casino and couldn't cash in my chips, you know. But it made me aware that something was wrong with the market. So I started hearing about naked short selling. And of course, that's where I also met Darren Saunders, who became who was out there before any of us. He was out there by himself in front of the New York Stock Exchange and the SEC building, and then also in Washington, D.C., protesting while the rest of us were being comfortable, you know, and not knowing anything was going on. And I wrote that article, and that article blew up. I subsequently wrote probably 130 pieces about market fraud, some of them satirical in tone, but all of them true. And I chronicled the growing. It was like, as I became aware of it more and more, the monster also grew before my eyes. So much so that I had to stop and go, is it just me? And is it awareness, or is it getting bigger? But hedge funds went from 100 billion to 1 trillion, and now they're well over that in the matter of a couple of years. So I realized, no, the monster is actually growing. And then fast forward, here we are 10 years later. I've been doing justice reform and working on a long-term project about prisons called Voices in a Jailhouse that's about to wrap up, thinking that the market maybe had been taken care of, because after 2008, why wouldn't they fix it? You know,
Yeah.
Only to find out with GameStop, of course, and AMC, that not only has it not been fixed, the monster is continuing to grow and shapeshift into other forms. So that's the short version.
That's great. Yeah, I really appreciate you letting us know. What's that series that you're working on again? Voices of Jailhouse?
Voices in a Jailhouse. There's a short trailer. If you look up Voices in a Jailhouse, and the main character's name is Larry Yarbrough. It's spelled Yarbrough. So you type those two words in together on YouTube, you'll find a short video that we put together. We started telling his story. It eventually, he was a life without parole, the only Black businessman in a, to put it bluntly, very racist town, Kingfisher, Oklahoma. He was targeted by the sheriff back in the 90s, and he was one of the first people in Oklahoma to get life without parole simply for possession. And as we followed his story, it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, again, fast forward about 9 years later, it's we're wrapping it up as a 5-part documentary series.
And it wasn't even like that huge of an amount, wasn't it? Like an ounce of cocaine or something like that he got.
It was an ounce of yes, it was an ounce of cocaine. And as I started interviewing people, we interviewed one of the jurors who is still advocating for him 20 years later, someone who was the ex-son-in-law of the racist sheriff, and we started interviewing these people, family members. We interviewed Larry in prison at Granite, and we discovered that not only was it ridiculous that the war on drugs sucked him in and he ended up with a life without parole, that I'm 100% sure that the drugs were planted in his house because they targeted him and were after him. So even taking that aside, the fact that he spent over 20 years in prison on a life without parole sentence is insane. It's just insane. So, and you know, his story obviously is one of thousands that got life without parole and one of millions who got, especially people of color who were targeted in the ill-fated war on drugs. And as a Democrat, I can say that a lot of that was kicked off by Joe Biden and Bill Clinton in the '94 drug crime bill. That set up life without parole and mandatory minimum sentences. So here we are.
I appreciate the fact that you're out there, advocating for, these people that don't have a voice whatsoever, and it's I also appreciate you, doing the same for the market reform situations right now. I think we all expected them to be fixed after '08, and Dodd-Frank did absolutely nothing to help us. So the reforms that were passed at that time seemed to, in a reg show and such, seemed to be nothing more than, just a show, a big pony show, and nothing really came of it, except for allowing these big banks, institutions, and hedge funds to continue doing what they're doing. So I appreciate you for that. And I noticed you mentioned Darren Saunders as well, and as a matter of fact, we've got Darren Saunders' stepdaughter and her partner Federico here with us right now. Thanks for joining us, Federico and Valentina. How are you doing today?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for coming here. What can you guys, how do you feel about, the legacy left behind by Darren Saunders? Because I know Mark Faulk here was a good friend, and Darren Arnold and myself were both very, very much inspired by Darren and, his activism and pushing and doing things like Wall Street Conspiracy, the documentary that came out, about a decade ago. What kind of a, legacy do you feel like he's left behind?
Well, I feel as though Daring was just an inspiration because of his perseverance. Like, he truly believed in doing what was right, whereas most people would have just given up after the trillionth time that he would, march out and scream about the injustices that were happening. And no one really wanted to hear it, because it is an uncomfortable truth, and I completely understand that. And it is still out there, and it's still as terrible to look at as ever, but it is the truth. And that's why it's so important to maintain what he's been saying and what he was advocating for all those years. And it is terrifying to understand that it was not it was not something that should have been a 12-year process. It was something that should be scandalous, and it was in '08, because it was something that they couldn't hide anymore, because everything that happened, the whole crisis finally happened, and that was what the Dirty Dozen was warning everyone about. And it, like Darren said, it's such a shame that so many people had to lose before they actually were seen. And I just think that it's so important that everything that you guys worked for in the first film, everything that he ever gave his energy, his time, his momentum for, not be forgotten, because he should never be forgotten. And yeah, it was his life's work, and I just plan on not letting it die with him. So yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I think it's completely true as well. I don't think that anybody's forgotten about him. If anything, in his memory, we look back and remember him and everything that he's done for us as, retail investors and you, his family and friends. He's deeply impacted a lot of people throughout the world, whether they even those people that don't understand it and that don't realize that. So I think that's truly something special. Federico, you're doing film right now, right? Are you able to, explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I studied cinema and television in an academy here in Italy. That's where I'm from. And well, besides any other project that I already had, or movies, short movies, series that I've done, when I came to know through her about the story of Darren, and being myself an investor, because I also entered in the world of the finance and markets and all this stuff 2 years ago, during the pandemic, as actually a lot of people. And after hearing that, I thought, wow, okay, I have the way to tell people this thing, because cinema and art and all these things are something that spreads voices. and she has the knowledge, she has the story, she has everything. And then we started planning on doing ourselves a movie, a documentary about it. And then we found out that you guys were already doing the sequel of the first movie that Darren did. So we decided to get in touch with you, with Mark, with Christina, and it's been probably one of the best discoveries in the latest years, because, well, besides the passion for cinema and everything, it's also just it feels right. It's the right thing to do, because it's, well, okay, honestly, when I talk about this project with my friends, they tell me, oh, so what are you doing now? And I say, I'm saving the world. So,
Yep. That's what and they don't understand, right? They don't know, like, what are you
yeah,
talking about? You know,
exactly.
they probably think it's some
Yeah,
crazy shit about climate change or something like that. Like, no, it's actually, helping to better people's financial futures,
yeah,
and their children's and such. And a lot of people don't even realize that, like, the impact that is had by people that are able to, like Mark was saying, that are able to protest or blog or share information or create films and documentaries and whatever it is that we can do to try to spread the word about what's happening. And like my friend Darren Arnold here likes to say, shine the light on financial markets, shine a light on the problem. So yeah, I think that's truly something special. So thank you for your help. And I really am glad to collaborate with you, Federico and Valentina. It's phenomenal. I'm definitely looking forward to doing something in Darren's honor as well, Mr. Darren Saunders. So cheers to him. Hey, Wolfie, Mr. Darren Arnold over here. Speaking of Darren Saunders, I know that he was a huge inspiration of yours. You've been talking about him for years. And as we recently met through the AMC and GameStop debacle, if you would call it, and these crazy issues that are happening in financial markets now, we came together as retail investors, along with millions of other people that are invested in AMC, GameStop, and other so-called meme stocks. How has Darren Saunders and the Wall Street Conspiracy documentary, and even Mr. Mark Faulk here, affected your life? How is that, something that has brought attention to what's happening in the world for you?
Firstly, thank you everyone for being here. It's a real honor. The Wall Street Conspiracy, I see before the play being AMC GME now. And I remember when I watched it, I always felt as though I always watched. I was always paying attention. And there's a million problems in this world. We can't keep track of everything. But 2008 was something I paid attention to. I remember VW. I remember my dad paying 17% interest on the mortgage. And I always watched. So I've been an activist one way or another. Sometimes for a union in the workplace. Other times just unfairness, things that ain't right. Nothing to the level of Mark and others. But I don't like the way everything was. And when I first saw the Wall Street Conspiracy, it did open my eyes. I always had belief of the stock market, how it worked. I've got my own theories about how it actually works. But when I see Darren sharing his story, it was emotional. Because I see people behind everything. Politics, where you're living, social, economic environments. Some people get a better head start than others. And I know there's anomalies to everything. Really rich people end up really poor, and really poor people end up, but not good enough for me. And then when I see Darren talk through, it was seeing what he went through in his words. And I've never actually gone into any detail about Darren, just that he is my hero. He was a brother or a son or a father, and he was just trying to do right by his family. And then because powerful people decide different, there was very little he could do, but bloody hell, did he ever go? And it was inspiring, just to see a guy stand outside Wall Street and just scream at him. It was just that in itself, without all the other things. And I don't want to go into the story, because I believe to this day, Darren Saunders deserves to tell his story. And for those that will get to see this film, especially all those that I referred to just now about not in the play, don't know how the stock market works, never invested, don't see how it impacts on them. You know, if you watch the Wall Street Conspiracy movie, you'll get a much better idea. And there's a lot of people that learned a lot in the last 2 years being involved, but it will give you an 18-month head start, a jump to why we're here, why we're so passionate. And it's all the millions of people out there that just do not know what happens in the market is affecting our everyday life. The mums and dads, the backbone of every country. It's not just America. 2008 was global. I believe there's a financial web, but you don't have to go too far outside of just the facts. And if you go and listen to Darren Saunders, Mark and others in the Wall Street Conspiracy, you get the facts. And we're now here 10 years later and nothing changed.
Nothing
There
changed.
is anyone who can come up with an excuse for that? No, nothing. So that pretty much is why I'm here. It's about people, it's about change, it's about accountability, and it's about time.
I agree, Wolfie. And you're absolutely right. Nothing changed. The big banks and institutions are doing the exact same shit they always have been. They're over leveraged far worse than they ever have been. The fiat, you know, the US dollar has depreciated in value by about 97% due to the inflation. You know, big banks are upside down. They have hundreds of billions of dollars and trillions of dollars of notional value in derivatives at this point, hundreds of trillions. A completely unsustainable system, you know, but this is the global financial issues that we're seeing that were the same as we were seeing back in 2008. And sadly, the vast majority of people are not understanding that, you know. So Mark, what would it be out there, you know, if you could share some information with people as to what the problems were in 2008? Yeah, I just glazed over it really quickly, but what do you believe are the real problems behind our financial system and our stock market that we're now seeing that a lot of people still, you know, are either turning a blind eye or unable to see for themselves? Do you have any input on that in the current real current situation? I know it's a lot. My apologies for throwing that on you, but what do you think is like a brief overview of what your thoughts as to the problems that we're seeing here now in global markets?
I mean, obviously that's a loaded question. But I'll give you something that I heard in one of our interviews, and I think it made the film. I'm not 100% sure, but Bill Shea, who was the grandson of the guy who Shea Stadium is named after, he was a hedge fund guy. And he was this New Yorker, kind of had that bravado, meaning that once he started talking, he got real honest about it. And he would discuss how he could bounce a trade through 6 different countries so that you lost the trail of the trade. And by the time it came back to America, you had no idea if that trade was covered, if that stock was real. You know, he could make it go away, kind of like he was laundering stock trades in the same way that we launder money, you know. And he also said at one point, well, every time you see, and I use this to this day when I'm looking at regulations, whether it's human rights or civil rights or justice reform, anytime you see a big reform package, let's say it's 1,000 pages long, he said, the only reason they're allowed to do that is because we, meaning him and the hedge funds and the people who are making billions off of a corrupt system, have played out one scheme and they're ready to put into place the framing and wording of the next scheme. So he said, why do you think reform packages are 1,000 pages? It's because, like a really long book, the congressmen read the first half maybe, and then they skip to the end and they read the ending. And he said, you go about 2/3 of the way through, about 650 pages in, and there might only be 5 words that is a loophole that lays the groundwork for the next scheme. So when we heard about Reg Show, the Dodd-Frank Act, of course, we repealed Glass-Steagall, so many things that we've done. Anytime you see reform, you have to believe that somewhere in there, extremely rich people have had their say in the process and in the framing of those documents. So yeah. I think we went from, I started writing in, again, March of 2004. We started working on Darren would call me and say, and I had never met him. We just knew each other. And he would call me and say, hey, I met somebody and I'm working on doing a documentary film. I'm like, sure you are, Darren. Sure you are, because Darren always had something going, some of it played out, some of it didn't, but he just never gave up. And people have to know that he was one of those people who sacrificed his comfort and his security in order to tell the truth. It's not in the film too much. There's a mention where he says, I slept in bathtubs. He was basically homeless for a while because he was fighting this battle. And he actually started out working for the same company that's portrayed in The Wolves of Wall Street. And that's how he became aware that it was corrupt. So he quit from there, and he was championing this drug called Virogen that was a cancer drug, and that very tragically could have treated the cancer that he later got. And that company was killed in America by naked short selling. Eventually, it was bought out by, I believe, a company in Italy. And so that drug came to market, but not in the United States. So you couldn't get it here. That's how, that if you want to know a direct effect of how we're affected by the fact that during what I would call the heyday of naked short selling, which was 2004 or maybe 2003 to 2010 or 12, definitely till 2008, we have documented well over 1,000 companies that were killed by this. And those are most often companies in their infancy. And the reason medical companies and technology companies are targeted so heavily is that if you're a technology company, even Amazon, that type of a company, or a medical company, you have to go into debt, sometimes tens of millions and sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars to get your product ready. So they would attack these companies because they were the weak members of the herd. They were vulnerable and young, and they could say, look at them, they're not making a profit, so they could trash them while they were making these shady deals with them, and then literally from the inside kill these companies. And it became a huge thing. And I would say, since we documented 1,000 companies, I mean, I followed one group of people that were doing fraud out of Las Vegas. It was in a book I wrote, and the penny stock company was CMKM Diamonds. That would be the equivalent of the ultimate. They ultimately issued over 800 billion shares of stock.
Wow.
But they traded sometimes into the trillions of shares. So it was both. The company from the inside was defrauding people, but also the market makers and everybody else was just selling shares like it was candy, penny candy. And
the liquidity fairy coming out and just making up synthetic shares and selling naked shorts and short exemptions in order to try to drive the companies into the ground.
That's right. And you could get away with it. And again, Reg Show came out. It essentially was like saying, there's a rash of bank robberies going around the country. Here's a list of all the banks are being robbed, but we're not going to do anything about it. But here's the list. So you'll know, don't go to that bank because they get robbed a lot. That's all they did. It is literally all they did. And sometimes a company like Overstock, as it went from micro cap penny stocks to mid-sized stocks. And then, of course, we all know in 2008, the monsters started devouring each other. They started attacking each other.
Yeah.
Now, once they got past that and they killed off some of their competitors, they then went, okay, well, we're going to go back to just devouring the overstocks and the people like that. So it's fine. The market's fine again. Money's flowing again. Everything's good. Everybody can go back to business as usual and look the other way. And what I found, because really I just started researching again around the time that the GameStop and the AMC, especially those two things happened. I was like, mean, I was going to use the F word here, but
Go ahead. This is an adult channel.
what the fuck? Like, how is it still going on? And it literally was the mirror image of the hundreds of companies that I was covering 20 years ago, some of them.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. So, but then what I found out since, around the time I quit covering it, was when quants were coming into being. And I don't know how much so these two things have been added to the mix. One is the quants, and that's these, not to insult them, but nerdy kids who come to Wall Street, and they began to put together automated just programs. So instead of a guy sitting there going, I think I'm going to short AMC today because it looks vulnerable, or GameStop or whatever, a program does it. So it's become so impersonal that literally an algorithm tells you who's going to be shorted, and they short them, and they all pile on at the same time because all of their algorithms are saying the same thing, and they bury these companies. But it's become automated, so the monster has grown. Yeah. The other half of the thing that Wes Christian has been telling me about recently is what he calls spoofing, which is where they come in, and again, because it's automated, they can do this. They place orders, and then they cancel the orders before they're even filled. So you're creating that's like me saying, oh, wow, there's 200 tickets to Bruce Springsteen on sale online, but I'm going to sell, I've got 5,000 of them I'm going to sell right now. So those were selling for $500. Whoops, now they're selling for $100. So I drove down the price just by saying I'm going to dump a ton of Bruce Springsteen tickets onto the market. And that's essentially what this is. So spoofing, they'll place basically a fake order, and then they pull it, and another order, and then they pull it. And so you look at the end of the day and you go, look at all these orders that have been placed to sell this stock. Something must be wrong. And so market sentiment takes over and creates that piling on effect. So that's really, as I said, the monster has grown exponentially along with technology and the awareness of the villains, I would just bluntly call them, over the last 20 years. And so that's what people need to be aware. This is, if the Wall Street conspiracy shows you anything, it shows you that this ain't new. This has been going on for a very long time, and it won't end in a day or a week or even a year. But we all have to now say, enough is enough. What are we going to do to change it? And as you said earlier, everybody can contribute in their own way to moving this problem towards some type of a long-term solution.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. So you're saying it's not just, movie theaters and video game, many distributors that are having this issue. This is all across the industry, all across markets, like you said, with Virogen and many other companies, isn't it?
It is absolutely true. And another one of the things that Wes Christian mentioned to me was, I asked him in one of our conversations, what can we do now? And the solution hadn't changed on a personal level. If, for instance, a company like AMC or GameStop or whoever it is, all of a sudden, all the shareholders got together and said, I want my paper stock certificates. Some companies are even going away from, they want to just get rid of them. I saw it in an environmental book saying that one way to say paper is quit printing shares on paper. Now, how I feel like, wait, a hedge fund somehow got into this green book, and I just read it randomly. It's crazy. It was crazy. Like, wait, what? You're going to play into the scheme. So he basically said that's one thing, is to go in and get your certificates. And the other thing is, any stocks that are vulnerable, take them out of margin accounts. Now, they will try to sell because they're borrowing your stock.
They can borrow your margin account stock shares.
And they are selling your stock to drive the price of your stock down, which to me is, I'm not a short selling fan anyway. I think you buy or you sell, and the market fixes itself based on that. But if it's in a margin account, they can take your stock and sell it and use it against you. So for example, if everybody that owned GameStop took all of their shares, even just those stocks, and put it in a cash account instead of a margin account, they could no longer legally borrow your stock and short sell it. So there's all these different ways that even shareholders can help. And they need to get the companies to get on board too and fight against it.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed currently there's a lawsuit by a stock by the ticker of NWBO, and they're currently suing market makers like Citadel and Virtue and several others for the spoofing of their stock. I think they're also a pharmaceutical company, you know, like a cancer research pharmaceutical company whose price has been driven down pretty heavily lately as well. So I'm glad to see that you're speaking up, and yourself and Mr. Wes Christian and, you know, Valentina Federico and Darren as well are you know, speaking up and speaking out about it. You know, this Virogen it wasn't able to be sold in the United States for a variety of reasons, but was available in other countries, you know, and NWBO is also working on other cancer research and pharmaceuticals that could also be used to treat people and to help people, you know, around the world. Sadly, you know, a lot of issues here in the United States prevent some of the medicine from being sold here, you know. But what do you guys? I'm sorry, I don't mean for this question to be a loaded question of any sort, but what do you guys feel would be, you know, the best outcome here if NWO were to win this lawsuit, or, you know, other companies were to step up in that same sense?
I think it's been, we know for 20 years, so Christina can speak on the subject at a later date, but trust me, it's 20 years. I don't often say, trust me, bro. I'm saying it now. Trust me, this has been 20 years. You know, companies now coming forward, there's no way they don't know that this goes on within the market. But as always, people are fearful of stepping in front of the money. And it's a lot of money, 2,900 trillion. This is more for people that hopefully will get to see this that don't know anything. It was widely reported. It's never been put down. It's never been it's been dismissed. It's never been proven as factually incorrect. 100 trillion by 2009 was stolen from the US market. 250 trillion globally. Now, these are people that bring nothing, make nothing, provide nothing. They look after themselves, the super rich. The problem I have with it is the people that at home that as yet do not know. And I'm hoping the Wall Street conspiracy will go some way, and then the sequel down the rabbit hole will be the home run. It'll knock the ball out of the park, everyone will wake up. I'm an optimist.
I hope so.
The big thing for me on it all is people who don't invest the market or have been deliberately over time, over years, been told it's too complicated. There's an awful lot of smart people out there who know exactly what's going on and how it works. You can watch the films, watch Marcel, listen to Mark, talk to everybody that's involved. They'll tell you where to look. But if you look at what's been going on, if it doesn't stop, then it was 100 trillion in 2009. That's pensions, that's jobs, that's careers, that's companies, that's CEOs, CFOs. That's people, mums and dads. They're people that are invested, have got a company, did do an IPO, list it on the market, etc. Did need to go to a bank that then loaned their shares out shortened to death. They did get people in. This has all been widely reported. But ultimately, the people at home that have never invested, I've seen statistics 40, 50% of United States citizens invest in the market. Well, that's an awful lot of people that consider it don't. Get them to pay attention. And Virogen, for me, and Darren Saunders especially in his own story, is critical to do that. Why? Because in the US, as Marcus said earlier on, Virogen wasn't stopped from being sold in the United States, but you could buy it in Italy for other countries. Over time, we will show going forward, but you don't have to wait for us. You can do it yourself. Go and have a look at Virogen. Go and have a look at how many people it did help and the cancer it did cure. The people that were cured, because everybody in the United States that don't invest in the market, don't care about the market, should care about that. They should care about becoming poorer because of greed, a cancer in the market that's been allowed to get away with everything they do. and it impacts all of us. So the people that have never bought a share, don't care about the market, don't care about us becoming rich, do care about somebody in their family who, God forbid, passed away to a cancer, the same as Darren Saunders did, for some greedy fucker who just wanted to make their quota for the people that invest through them. It has to stop. It does affect all of us, and we need to wake up to that. And Virogen is one of them stories that if you understand it, you can't help but be angry, upset. And God forbid there's people that do wake up to Virogen and that story, and they've had family pass away in the United States because it wasn't available, down to naked shorting the company to death.
Yeah, brother. It wasn't just, Radio Shack and Blockbuster and Toys R Us. It's companies that matter to us and that we need to help sustain us and help cure us as human beings, like Virogen and NWBO and many other stocks out there on the market. Valentina and Federico, if I could, ask you guys, what fond memories do you have of Darren and what he was doing to try to enact this change and to try to, really push for some basically eyes on what's happening on the stock market? I'm sure you've got plenty of fond memories, but can you share some of that with us if you don't mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was only 12 when he passed away, and I have amazing memories and have amazing stories to tell, but sadly, none that can concern what he was facing throughout those years. And what I do know is that Darren was always he was always just an everyday guy. He just really loved the idea of working on the market, of trying to understand how it worked, just because he loved the challenge of it all. Like, he was just obsessed with numbers. He was just like, I want to be better than everyone else. I want to prove it, that I can do these calculations, that I can shove it in their face to those Wall Street pricks, and I can just yeah. And he was he had a talent. He was a genius. He just was. And the funny thing is that even though he had the talent, he had the drive, he had the passion, he didn't care about earning anything. And that is what made Daring. Like, he just sought out to do what all those companies were doing, those like Virogen. He was just hoping for the best in humanity and creating the best outcome for all. And that's what made him so lovable, so understanding, and that's why he was inspirational. He just got to the heart of the subject. And the thing is, the really the saddest part is that he was stifled by the one thing that could have been helped by what you guys were all working towards. And it was just, I mean, honestly, the last memory I have of him is just a very sad one, which was when I had gone to visit him at the hospital. And I just remember seeing all the light drain from him, which is an anomaly if you had ever known Darren. Yeah, and he was just there, and even on his deathbed was thinking about the money that was going to be earned, if it was ever going to be earned from the movie, and giving it to my dad so that he could, in his own right, get checked out to see if he had a tumor, if he had a cancer, just because that's the kind of person he was. And he's just like, to my dad, yeah, I mean, he did what he thought was right. And, I think we all have that morale. We all have that, part of us that's just telling us, okay, we know what we have to do, but very few have the courage to then actually act upon those needs and those. I mean, it's just, it's a beautiful thing, and it's just amazing when you actually get to see it happen. And yeah, so I just really think that what we're doing here is just, like Daring was saying before, I mean, knowledge is power. So we just really need to get it out there. We need to, I mean, I know nothing about the market, honest to God. I just learned everything like throughout this whole story, throughout this whole journey, but I still understand the basic logic of it all. And it's not something that you should avoid just because you think you won't understand it. It's something you absolutely have to inform yourself.
It's not difficult.
Yeah,
like it's not something that's difficult itself. Like you can say that you're not good at math or anything, but the market itself and how it works, it's pretty easy. Like the concept of it. Then okay, of course, there's any technical part and all of these things, and it can be tricky, but it's not a difficult concept. It's just a concept that people have in their head. They think that you must be a genius to be a trader or work in finance, when you just need to be good. That's it.
Yeah, you just need to have your own moral compass. You need to have something that drives you, and then you can find out whatever it is you need to know, and for sure find your own way of navigating through that world. Yeah, and that's what I think.
That's excellent. And most people don't know anything about the market, really. There's nothing wrong, or there's nothing bad with that. Even the retail investors that are currently in the market have probably learned more in the last 12 to 24 months than they have in their previous lifetime. Even myself, like I've been trading for going on 20 years now, and I've learned more in the last 18 months with diving deep into AMC and GameStop, and I've learned a ridiculous amount of information based off of the corruption that's occurring by these large financial players, the market makers, the hedge funds, the family offices, and even some government officials, insider trading and doing other ridiculous things like that. So I think it's really important, and I applaud you, Valentina, for stepping up and for joining us here and having this discussion about Darren and financial markets and everything, because a lot of people need to learn this. So thank you very much for taking that initiative. Truly, that's also why I started doing YouTube and started, because I couldn't figure out a better way to reach out to people, and I think that it's important. Federico, you're a trader as well, right? You're a retail investor. You've been doing this for a little while. What have you been seeing lately as to like the things that Mark, Faulk, and Darren Arnold here are talking about? What have you been seeing on the markets that have kind of like pointed you in the direction to realize that the things going on with Vibragen are, a systemic issue?
Well, okay. Personally, I've never invested in a company that I think that has been short sold in a fraudulent way, But
fair enough.
Yeah, but just because I am unexperienced enough to have only invested in big companies and those things that were sure, because of course I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning, so I needed to learn, and to start I tried to go on something that was more secure, but it is for what I've seen and what I've learned in these latest months, it's weirdly easy for big companies, big hedge funds and stuff like that to trick the market and tear down companies and do naked short selling or spoofing. Or the spoofing, for example, is the easiest thing to do. You just need fame. You just need to be famous, or have a voice and saying. I think that I'm talking about spoofing, right? Yeah, the psychological, like saying this thing is going to happen, and then the price goes down, even if the news are not correct. Like it's just fake news, and it's very easy, but it's extremely impactful on everyday lives of everyone and the economic system in general.
Yeah, what you're discussing is the market manipulation that occurs between a lot of these these paid shills and these mainstream media corporations that are owned by, like you said, these very, very rich individuals, that just pump money into their media conglomerates to even spread misinformation. And the spread of misinformation alone can be enough to turn the tide in the stock to allow them to, short it or to capitalize on making money. And that, yeah, you make a great point. Absolutely. Mark,
that particular trend is widely known as short and distort.
There you go.
What you was referring to there, just Federico. So short and distort has been something that's been written about by many. Mark, I believe you've touched on it once or twice in the past, one way or another. How do we get that out to the people? By doing what we're doing, because like you say, not everyone's got time, and it's deliberately the way things are set up. People now having to work longer, work harder, work later in life. The pensions are disappearing, so they've got to work to 70, 72, 75, sometimes longer. But we keep doing what we're doing. But people are starting to wake up to the short and distort. They are waking up to spoofing. They are waking up to naked short selling. And when people understand that, even if you've never invested in the stock market, chances are now, today in 2023, you have lost something, whether it was access to some new technology, access to some new medical treatment, access to your 401k when you needed it most. And the sickening thing, I always talk about 401k, but this really does affect young people, old people, everybody. If you're not part of their game, you're part of ours, whether you like it or not. And we all pay, we all lose, 2008, we were told 3 trillion and then 29 trillion in 2019. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And it's worse for our great grandkids now. If you look at the US there, and it's global, but concentrating on the US, it was 10 trillion in 2010. It's 31 trillion today. 13 years now later, it's over treble what it was. Marcel does an outstanding job talking about the global economics and what's happening in China and the stories that are coming out, which are short and distort in a different way, but it's to confuse us and keep us preoccupied. We switch off. We're overloaded, we switch off. We can't make sense of it. Well, Wall Street Conspiracy does, and I'm sure down the rabbit hole will. And the message that we send is where to look. That also takes care of all the FUD. It focuses people in on what's important. So just them 3 things. Naked short selling, there's court cases that have been won, West Christian. Short and distort has been written about many a great writer, including Mark. We've got 2 films coming up that if you don't know anything, you can watch. And if you understand Darren Saunders' story, you don't need anything else, because your voice then becomes part of a collective. And if you think people can't change things, there is times in history when it's exactly people that have changed it. And ultimately, the sickening thing for me, it's a very, very small percentage of people. It's not your mums and dads. It's not the people that, when something catastrophic, something terrible happens in this world, that go out and put their lives on the line. It's not the teachers teaching our children or the cleaners cleaning the streets. It's not the angels of 2 years ago when a pandemic broke, when they were working under the most immense pressures, now can't get a pay rise. It's a very, very, very small, greedy group of people that, as Mark alluded to and spoke really eloquently on, have been able to govern the rule book, design the playbook, implement the things that they needed for the next step. So if anyone thinks, oh, this happened in 2000, 2008, it don't happen anymore, market-backed securities, credit default swaps is still a thing. You're about to walk into it. Marcel shows it perfectly well why. The leverage in the banks has got worse than 2008. And ultimately, we're there to pay that price. Why the same people? Exactly the same people that took that Virogen away from Darren Saunders. Exactly the same people that robbed 401ks. I've seen estimates of 5 trillion from pensions. They're people that were going to retire and lost that money and have got no time to recover. You know, there's people still living out of cars today because of a very, very small, greedy, manipulative, psychopathic individuals that have got Congress by the ear. They pay the money, they support them to get elected, they got the people in all the positions that they need. Everyone else don't need to know that. What we need to know is we're paying the price for them to get richer and richer and richer, and they're robbing you blind. Every time you put $1 in your pocket, if you're lucky, they're only taking half. And when we wake up to exactly what that means, you'll see change, 100%.
As the saying goes, it's a small club and you ain't in it. You know,
You can't go wrong with quoting George Carlin ever.
That's right. Mark, you know, what can you tell us is like, what are you seeing right now? Like real quick, what you guys were just mentioning, Federico and Mark and Darren, about, you know, the short and distort campaigns is something that's still happening today. You know, just not even 2 weeks ago, there was some bad news about AMC Networks being the television channel that puts out, you know, various TV programming, et cetera. And there was some bad news about them. And the short and distort campaign came out huge on all mainstream media platforms. You name it, They were mistagging AMC Networks as AMC Entertainment. And instead of AMC Networks ticker AMCX, they were using AMC Theaters ticker AMC in order to get the more uneducated retail investors to believe that there was bad news about AMC, when in reality these bankruptcy talks had nothing to do with AMC Theaters. They were in discussion with AMC Networks only. But again, it's the short and distort campaign that was being pushed heavily as an excuse mostly for these market makers and short hedge funds to heavily short AMC Theaters further down off the backs of the shares that they were getting and pushing through lit markets in sell orders from retail investors, in addition to, around 55% short volume for that day alone. And on that day, AMC Theaters, for absolutely no reason at all, was down about 18% simply because of this short and distort campaign. That's one day's change. So I think that's really indicative of a lot of the issues that we're seeing. Mark, what can you share with us regarding the situation that we're seeing now, and why, and about what Darren Saunders was doing to try to help people visualize that and create real change? What was the message that you could give us from Darren Saunders to really help, propel people into understanding what's happening?
Well, first of all, as we we're just talking about, Darren was obsessive about knowledge. He was so Brooklyn. He was so street in many ways. But at the same time, he could off the top of his head say, oh, the banks or the brokers are loaning this much, this many more times, and there should be 25 times, they're at 150 times. He knew all of the dynamics of it, and he was brilliant. And he went into the boiler room that he started working in because his brother got him into that gig, and he thought, oh wow, Virogen, this is a cool company. I can turn people on to it. He didn't know that it was one of the companies they were going to target or were already targeting to destroy. So he's pumping. Yes, he was pumping the stock to people. And then it starts dropping and he doesn't understand why. And then he goes online, he starts digging around, he finds, me and other people, and we all kind of joined together in this weird organic way, and I once dubbed us the Dirty Dozen because we were all very different. There's Dave Patch, who was literally a rocket scientist. He designed rockets, airplanes for jets and stuff, so he was that guy. Patrick Byrne, Wes Christian, who is the Houston attorney, who would break it down to, in Texas, we call that lying, cheating, and stealing. And let's break it down to some basics. And that was a bad imitation. He's more country than I am. And I'm good. So, John O'Quinn, another attorney that worked with Wes and passed away under suspicious circumstances. He was on his way to New York to testify against Goldman Sachs with a bunch of paperwork. And we had this thing happen in Oklahoma decades ago with Karen Silkwood. A lot of people are familiar with that. Happened just north of me, where she was going after Kerr-McGee, and it was a nuclear power plant, and she was exposing things in nuclear power. And she was meeting a New York reporter in Oklahoma City. Her car mysteriously ran off the road and she was killed, and her packet of paperwork she was taking disappeared.
Get out.
Nobody could find it. So that's it. A lot of that's in the Silkwood movie, a pretty good film, and happened literally 20 miles north of here. But is this suspicious? At the very least, John O'Quinn was on his way to New York. His apparently brakes went out. I don't know for certain, but at a fairly high speed in a rainstorm, his SUV rolled and he was killed on his way to New York to deliver some pretty heavy blows against Goldman Sachs. I'm just going to say now that's a conspiracy. That's something we can't prove in any way. But I will tell you, this is a dangerous game. When I had John Harmer, who was under Ronald Reagan as Attorney General and Lieutenant Governor in California, and then later worked with him in Washington, tell me on camera, as you uncover this evidence, your life will be in danger. They will come after you. They will kill you. And the reality of it is that we're talking about billions of dollars of schemes. You know, people get killed over $100. So don't imagine that these people won't do this to you over billions of dollars when you're messing with their schemes. But Darren was fearless. He was fear. I'll show you. I keep this on my mantle. I went and grabbed it a minute ago. This is Darren and I in front of the NASDAQ. Not too long after I met him, you can tell now my hair has gone gray from this. So to give you an idea of the toll it can take, also age, but that's a different story. But Darren was just fearless, and he always did the right thing. And money didn't, you know, as we were just saying, money didn't matter to him. He just, money didn't matter to him. Love mattered to him. People caring for each other mattered to him. The entire crew of the film got together when he was in the hospital, and we put money together and tried to get Virogen shipped over as a special exemption from, I think Italy is where it was at the time. It got caught up in customs and never made it into America. And, you know, again, those people who think it doesn't affect them, it's insane that and we took the cameras in and interviewed him in the hospital because he's the one who called and said, you got to come interview me. Like, no, man, you're in the fucking hospital. You're supposed to be. And he's like, no, he's like, you got the other Darren's like, you need to come and get the fucked up Darren. And that's literally how he said it to him. You had to come film the fucked up Darren. And the good news is we have a lot of footage of Darren that didn't get used, and it's hard to talk about him still. You know, I have a Norfolk pine that's now 30 to 40 foot tall in my front yard that I planted right after he died, because he told me that pine trees were his favorite trees because they're always green and they never die. And it was about 4 foot tall 12 years ago. Now it's 30 to 40 feet tall and took over the whole front yard. So, you know, that's what he meant to me. And I appreciated and cared about all the other people involved. But Darren quite literally put his life on the line for this. And I believe in that. I've done that a few times myself in activism. I think it's important. And I would just tell people that you have to be diligent. That I was in Ferguson for a little while filming there, and this older woman on the first day of one of the protests we were there, older Black woman who obviously had been in the trenches probably since the 60s, got on the megaphone because all these kids, man, they were going crazy. They were going to take down the Ferguson police that night, you know, just that night. And she said, this action is over. Everybody go home and get some rest, because we're going to need you tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And she said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And I use that a lot. And that's, Darren would be in the fray right now if he were here. Of course he would. He would have been, I thought about him often when I was doing stuff with Occupy OKC. You know, we did our own version here. I got arrested once during that. In fact, one day Darren's dad called, and there's 100 people around me, and I'm like, hey, this is the dad of the guy I've been talking about. And I asked him, I said, what advice would Darren have for us if he were still here? And he said, well, we used to go to Atlantic City and gamble. And Darren would only do one machine, and it was a slot machine, you know, one arm bandit. And he's like, he didn't make any money off of it. He lost his money. And I asked him, you know, why do you only want to play on this one machine? And I don't remember the name of the actual game. I wish I could, but he said he played the machine because the slogan of the machine was storm the castle and kill all the rich people. And
He wasn't wrong.
that was Darren. He was like, I'm going to beat this because this is what I'm not advocating, again, as a nonviolent protester. I am not advocating actually killing all the rich people. I am advocating for taking away their power over us. Like Bernie Sanders, when he came up, he had that same kind of thing. Darren would have fallen in love with Bernie Sanders and campaigned for him, just like I did here in Oklahoma, you know. So there's only a handful of people, and I could count them on one hand in Washington, who are on our side. And we have to reach them. We have to get the word out, and we have to work together. You know, I know pretty soon we'll be doing an Indiegogo to kind of get the seed money going for Wall Street Conspiracy Down the Rabbit Hole. That's what it will be titled on Indiegogo. That should be open in hopefully in a few days. Federico did a great trailer. We've been working on that back and forth. It's fun to do this long distance. And again, I told him earlier, I'm super picky. I'm a perfectionist, and I'll go back and tell you what's wrong with the film, The Wall Street Conspiracy. There's some things I don't like in it, but at this point, I know a lot more than I did then. So this will be a better film. We have people involved. Darren's legacy will be treated for what it was. So you'll see footage of Darren that you didn't see because when you film a documentary, you film thousands of hours of footage sometimes, and you condense it down to, in that case, about 100 minutes, in the case of Voices in a Jailhouse, 2.5 hours or something like that. So there's a lot of footage still there, and we have people to carry on his legacy and tell his story. And I applaud, the two of you for stepping up and wanting to know more about Darren. And as I get time, I'll send you, he did a blog where every day he would send, practically every day, less when he got sick, out little email blogs, because that's kind of how blogs were back then.
Yeah.
And he would always start it with greetings from Sherwood Forest, because he signed it Robin Hood, which is a little ironic in light of what we've now seen more recently. I'll pull some of those and send to you guys. We'll use a few of those in the film. We're trying to dig up his old Where's My Stock local access that he did in New York City. They were phenomenal. I was blessed to do one with him, and we bought a giant, he found a piggy bank at Walmart, and he had, I think, Bernanke's name put on the side of it. And every time we talked about people being defrauded in that show, I went out and got a bunch of quarters, and we put another quarter in there. And I put on my shades, he put on his safety goggles, and he took out a hammer at the end of the show, and we smashed the piggy bank. So, political theater, something I still do to this day. My dad was a playwright, as I said. So political theater is big. So understand that that's the other thing Darren would say is do the things that bring the attention to it. It may seem like theatrics sometimes, but hey, you gotta raise a fucking noise, and you gotta do things and say things that make people pay attention. And they may go, are you fucking crazy? Are you seriously? You're saying that? You must be crazy. And then, it's almost biblical that the crazy prophet many times turns out to be just that, a prophet. And if you stopped and listened to what they were saying, it literally is like, oh shit, they were speaking truth. And we thought it was just a crazy guy on a street corner. And that's what I love about Darren, and just that in his heart. He just had a huge heart. So everybody start from the heart and understand that we all have to fight together on this. We literally have to come together and we have to beat it once and for all. We can't let it come back and haunt, the younger generations and my kids and my grandkids and on down the road. We have to actually fix it. We can't put band-aids on it any longer. We've got to take the steps to educate ourselves, do the right thing, and wherever you fit, get involved in some way. So that's all I got.
I appreciate that. I like that a lot. I bet a lot of you guys do as well. I feel the same way. I don't want to compare myself to Darren in any way, but just based off your point there, Mark, I get that look a lot. People look at me like I'm some sort of maniac because I'm over here saying we're going to be so fucking rich because of the ridiculous number of synthetic shares and naked shorts and crazy amounts of market manipulation and spoofing and ladder attacks and rehypothecations and shorts marked as long. And I could just go on, married puts, divorce puts, married calls, etc. That has just been continuing to happen over and over again. And now we're seeing, crypto exchanges, cryptocurrencies, stable coins just go bankrupt out of nowhere. These Ponzi schemes are collapsing left and right. Banks are now, at the point where it makes like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns look like child's play. Off your point too, Darren Arnold, like the fact of the matter is that we were seeing back in 2000 and 2008, with banks having around $120 trillion in notional derivatives liabilities, we're now seeing over nearly $1 quadrillion of total notional derivatives liabilities in the banking sector. And the fact of the matter is that they've only got a few $trillion of actual assets to back those, hundreds of trillions of dollars of liabilities. So the fact of the matter is that I'm just doing whatever I can to try to, shine a light on that situation. And I'm really, really happy and proud of you all. Thank you guys for being here with us, Mark, Federico, Valentina, and Darren, for sharing everything that you have so far. I'm definitely looking forward to the sequel of here called Down the Rabbit Hole of the Wall Street Conspiracy. And I personally, I'll be glad to donate some money to that Indiegogo when it comes out. And I hope that a lot of other retail investors do as well.
Thank you. The only other thing I'd like to mention, and people just look this up, so I won't go into it much, the Depository Trust Corporation or Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. So it's either DTC or DTCC. Look up DTC. We went and filmed B-roll there just to get some shots of this giant nondescript monolith of a building. It's not in the first film. Since I'm going to, work myself into creative control on the second film, it will be in it. They brought out attack dogs on leashes. So the DTC, just literally in a sentence, it's
take some steak.
Yeah, it's literally the organization that's in charge of clearing the trades and counting the shares, and it's owned by the brokers. So we don't oversee it at all. We just say, we trust you to properly count and clear all of the trades. And the DTC is the mechanism that allows them to do so much of the fraud that they do. They were so pissed off at us, literally just shooting some shots of their building, that attack dogs on leashes came out.
They sicked the dogs on you. Holy shit.
yes, they did. So yeah, so there's so many aspects to it. And again, I have a website called redstaterevolt.com. I haven't used it very much, but over the next week or so, I'm going to pull a lot of my old articles and put them there, and that'll be kind of a primer for everybody to start. You'll see what a snapshot of what we were learning from 2004 to around 2010. So hopefully that'll educate people on the nuances of the fraud, which, as you guys said, now has new tentacles and has grown exponentially. So here we are.
redstaterevolt.com. I'll make sure we put a link down in the comments for that as well. Good looking out. Appreciate you guys. And once we get the information on the Indiegogo, I'll do what I can to share it as well. And I hope you guys all will also do that. I personally will be more than happy to contribute to it. And I hope to see, you, Mark, and Federico and Valentina in the movie. And Federico, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing your trailer, man. I caught a glimpse of it. in the emails, and I'd definitely like to see what else you can do, man. I think you're really skilled, and I appreciate you for helping out with that as well. And Valentina, I know it's very difficult talking about someone that you loved as much as Darren Saunders. So I appreciate and applaud you for, spending time with us and having this discussion. Hopefully we can see more of you in the movie as well. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's been an honor.
And you as well. And of course, my man, Wolfie. Wolfie, any parting words, my friend? Because I'm sick of this shit, and I'll do whatever the hell it takes to stand up until we can make real fucking change.
We'll carry on doing exactly what we're doing. I think, Mark, you can testify to it. I'm sure we all can. When things start, they have a way of evolving. And over the 2 years, I've watched for an awful long time people. I'm only interested in people. I'm very similar to what I'm hearing about Darren. I don't care about money as long as the bills are covered and my kids are doing okay. But I'm not worried now about my grandkids, great grandkids. I'm not worried about money, but getting the message out and making a change, shining a light, being accountable, willing to stand up when good men do nothing. So I'm not special. I'm just like everybody else. I think we all care. We're all passionate about our family and our friends and our community. A lot of us end up losing our way, don't know how to do it, etc. But things have a way of evolving, and I think this next year, immature of our own play, what we focus on at the moment, Marcel, with AMC and GME, that will do its thing. That will just play out exactly how it's meant to. Maybe not quick enough for some, but it will play out. But getting the word out to the wider people, is a way of evolving. And I'm hoping within the movement, I've always said we got 5 to 10 million spread across all the different stocks, etc. But it's an awful lot of people. And I'm respectful of the fact that Darren tried on his own. And then Mark come along and the Dirty Dozen and the Wall Street Conspiracy. Now we've got 5 to 10 million people saying, look, you've got to look at this. You need to understand what it does to you. Not how to become rich, not how to become stupidly rich. We know we're going to be so fucking rich. It's not about that. That's a byproduct.
No, it's not.
That's what got us into it. Yeah, it's the impact on everyday people. And we need you to look. We're desperate for you to look. We've got nothing to do with the plays we're in. They're taken care of. They're going to run the course. But for you to just be out there as a mum, as a dad, as a brother, a sister, an uncle, and auntie, you being out there where you've lost a family member that a technology and a medical advancement could have helped with. That's true. That's 100% factual. And over the next week, 2 weeks, a couple of months, building up to the sequel coming out, we will have more interviews like this. We will go into more specific detail with each individual. So we've got a lot of people. Wes Christian. The reason no one wants you to listen to Wes is because his information is incredibly valuable. They don't want you to hear it. They don't want you to understand it. That's why they send in all the haters. Mark went to film a building, and we've now heard they sent the dogs out. It's the same dogs in your Discord. It's the same dogs in your website. The same dogs in the newspapers, on mainstream media. They're sending the dogs out because they don't want you knowing. And if I can do anything, so that you'll take a look, I'll do it. It's not about money. It's about people. It's about the pain. It's about the loss, the cost. It's about businesses being driven out by a very small percentage, a cancer in the market. Over the next few weeks, next few months, we hope to do a lot more of these. We're going to. We hope that you pay attention, not to give us views or make us names or famous. As Mark said, you put yourself up, you're going to get shot at. We're stood here willing to be shot at because our grandkids matter. Our children matter. The people that aren't here any longer. Darren Saunders deserves to be heard, and you should put yourself out to go and listen to what the man had to say.
Cheers, buddy. We are the whale. We are the whale now, period. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for coming out. Let's wrap this up now because I don't want to take too much of your time, and hopefully we can do it again next week and have another discussion. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you for doing this, Marcel. I appreciate your time. I know you're also busy. Mark, for those who don't know, is in the middle of filming. So he's assistant, etc., is taken over while he's sitting here with us. A lot of people are trying to get the word out. Please listen. Please listen. Thank you,
everybody.
Federica.
Appreciate you guys.
Valentina.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, my friends. We're going to be so fucking rich. And in the meantime, I wish you peace and wealth. Have a great fucking evening, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys check out the Wall Street Conspiracy movie. Came out in 2012. Should be available on YouTube. The sequel, Down the Rabbit Hole, will be coming out later this year. We'll be hosting an interview next week with the producers of the movie, as well as Mr. Wes Christian, and hopefully we can have Mark Faulk, and maybe we can have Federico, Valentina, and Wolfie, of course, back as well. So until then, I'll probably see you guys tomorrow or the day after here on the channel. Thank you, everybody. Peace and wealth.